Okay. Good morning, my dear students. So during Physics 1, we categorize forces into two groups, diba? Contact and non-contact forces. And I feel like for most of us, it's easier to understand how contact forces happens. It occurs because of interaction between two objects that are, again, in contact with each other. Objects that are pulling or pushing against each other. So what I want to say is we can see the objects doing that result to a frictional force or an applied force. However, it's a different story kapag non-contact forces kasi hindi natin nakikita kung paano nagaganap yung interaction between the objects. Yung gravity, hindi natin nakikita na hinihila yung mga bagay pababa, di ba? We will only notice it kapag bumabagsak na yung bagay. Now, in electrostatic, we don't see how the charges are interacting, kung paano nag-interact yung charges ng isang charged plastic comb at noong mga paper bits. But the attraction still happens anyway. In this module, we will discuss the concept of electric field. Isa siyang konsepto in Physics 2 that will explain how the objects are capable or how the charges are capable of interacting with each other even though they are a distance apart. But electric field is actually an abstract concept as well. So we will make use of an analogy to explain it. So for example, na-assign ka mag-babysit. Okay? So lumabas ka lang saglit pero pagbalik mo doon sa room ng baby, you notice that the atmosphere suddenly change. Meron kang naamoy. So you smell the smell of poop. So immediately it occurred to you na ay kailangan na ng diaper change ni baby. So as you notice, lumalakad ka papunta kay baby, you notice that or it become more noticeable yung amoy, the smell became stronger because again you're getting closer to the source of the smell. And then if you thought that if there were more poop in the diaper, the smell will definitely be greater. So it's as if that the diaper ay gumawa ng or binago ang atmosphere sa paligid niya, di ba? That's why you were able to smell the odor particles that diffuse through the air. It was able to reach your nose even though you were further apart or far apart from the source. So it was able to change the atmosphere around it. It created, quote unquote, a stinky field. So think of this analogy, okay? The soiled diaper creates a stinky field. The nose feels or smell the field even from a distance. Even if the nose don't smell it, the stinky field still exists. Okay, di ba kahit wala ka sa room, because there's a source of the smell, the stinky field will still exist. And then the closer you are from the soiled diaper, the stronger the smell. It also depends on the amount of poop, of course. So think of that as we explain electric field. Think of that analogy of the diaper changing the atmosphere around it. When there's a charged object, it actually also alters or changes the space around it. It creates what is called an electric field. Whenever another charged object enters the electric field, it will feel an attractive or a repulsive force. Makakaroon siya ng, madidetect niya yung isang electric force. Para itong sa analogy natin, di ba? The nose was able to detect the smell after it entered or after the owner of the nose entered the stinky field. In the same way, charged object will produce an electric field, will change the space around it, such that whenever another charged object enters that electric field, it will experience an electric force, whether attractive or repulsive, depending on the charges. Okay? So, if the other charged object is closer to the source of the electric field, mas malaking electric force yung mararanasan niya. Diba? And then, if the magnitude of the source charge, yung gumawa ng electric field, is higher, the other charged object will feel a stronger electric force because the electric field will also be stronger. Okay? Charged objects affects other charged objects that were in the surrounding neighborhood. A charged object creates an electric field and other charged objects around it feels the effect. And the electric field exists whether a charged object is around it or not. So katulad kanina, di ba? The soil diaper will still change the atmosphere around it, will produce a stinky field, quote unquote, whether the nose is present or not. Electric field can be quantified through the electric field strength. Okay, it's also a vector quantity. That's why you have to think about its magnitude and direction. Let's first talk about its magnitude. So assume that you have a big Q. Your big Q is your source charge. Siya yung gumagawa ng electric field. And then, if you want to measure the electric field strength or intensity, you will place test charge on several position or several distance away from the source charge. So this is your test charge, a distance away. So since the test charge entered the electric field na ginawa ng source charge, it will feel an electric force. In this case, it's feeling a repulsive force. Okay? How do I compute for the electric field strength? It's actually denoted as E. And that's equal to the electric force felt by the test charge divided by yung magnitude ng charge noong test charge. So it's F over Q. You will notice that the magnitude of E is not dependent on the magnitude of the test charge. Yung electric field strength ay hindi dependent on the magnitude of the test charge. Unlike electric force, diba, it depends on the magnitude of Q1 and Q2. E only depends on the magnitude of big Q. Let me show you the Coulomb's law. So diba, F, that's K, Q. Instead of Q1, let's use the big Q. And instead of Q2, let's use the small q. Divided by D squared. And then merong Q sa ilalim, diba? You will notice that the Q will get cancelled out. So actually, you're left with KQ over D squared. So using this other equation, you will see that the electric field strength will depend on the magnitude of the source charge and the distance from the source charge. So the farther away you are from the source charge, the weaker the electric field intensity will be on that position. And then notice that it's also an inverse square relationship. Ibig sabihin, if you double the distance from the source charge, the electric field strength will be 4 times weaker. So from this formula, you can see that the unit is N over C. Newton for force and Coulomb for charge. Remember, if you will use this formula, this Q is the magnitude of the test charge. Okay? Not the source charge. Remember that although makikita mo siya sa equation, E equals F over small q, hindi niya naapektuhan yung electric field strength, diba? Because if we put in the Coulomb's law here, the Q will get cancelled out. And if you think about it, if you increase the magnitude of Q by Coulomb's law, lalaki din yung electric force, diba? Because kasi mas malaki yung magnitude ng charges by Coulomb's law, if lumaki yung big Q or the small q, the electric force will also increase. Okay, so if you increase the Q here na nasa denominator, that will also increase the F na nandito sa numerator. But remember, this one and this one have an inverse relationship. That means na kapag lumaki yung Q na nasa ilalim, liliit by the same amount yung E. Pero pinalaki din ng Q yung F, diba? So kung lumaki ang F, silang dalawa naman ay direct. Lalaki naman din in the same way yung E. Which you can see here that the effect cancels out. Okay, that's why actually yung magnitude ng electric field strength or intensity does not depend on the magnitude of the test charge. It only depends on the distance from the source charge, kung saan mo minimeasure o kung saan mo pinuwesto yung iyong test charge, and the magnitude of the source charge itself, the source of the electric field. Okay, this one. Q and this. So, gawin ulit natin yung ating analogy. So, again, you have a soil diaper that changed the atmosphere around it. Mas stronger yung smell if you were closer to the source or if you're closer to the diaper, and if it contains more poop. as detected by your nose. However, kahit na may sariling smell yung owner ng nose, 'di ba? Kahit na may sariling amoy yung may-ari ng nose na nakaka-detect nung smell of poop, yung amoy nung may-ari ng nose doesn't really affect, 'di ba, kung gaano kalakas yung amoy ng diaper. Okay? So you get my point? So whatever the magnitude of the test charge, it won't affect the intensity of the electric field. That's for the magnitude of the source charge to say. So since we have a vector, we have to deal as well with the magnitude and the direction. We have to deal as well with the direction. Diba? The magnitude you can get from those two formulas. Pero saan ko ituturo yung aking vector arrows? So we have several points here. Let's assume na maglalagay ako ng same test charge on all of those A to F position. Saan ako tuturo? Ang sabi dito, where would a positive test charge go? Yun yung convention. Ang direction ng arrow will be kung saan pupunta yung isang positive test charge. For example, kung maglalagay ka ng positive test charge dito sa B, draw a line of action. Siyempre magre-repel siya, di ba? But pag sa A ka maglalagay, okay, dapat galing siya sa center actually. If you will put sa A, it will be weaker, diba? Inverse square relationship between distance and E. But the direction is the direction where a positive test charge will go. This one should have longer. E, because again you are closer to the source charge. Okay, so use E equals F divided by small q, or E equals K BQ over D squared to solve for the magnitude, and then follow this convention to solve for the electric field strength. Remember as well that using this formula, we can manipulate this formula, diba? Para maging ganito siya. The electric force that another charged object will feel kapag napasok niya yung electric field ng source charge will depend on the electric field itself and its own magnitude. Meaning to say, bumabalik ka lang din doon sa Coulomb's law. Kasi yung E mo, di ba, ay KQ over D squared, and then you will multiply it with Q. So it's actually consistent with the Coulomb's law again. Okay? The electric force that you will feel when you enter an electric field will be equivalent to the test charge, your magnitude of charge, and the strength of the electric field as well. Okay, that's why you have to calculate for the electric field strength. And just multiply it with whatever the magnitude of the test charge para malaman mo yung electric force na mararanasan noong charge na iyon. Okay? Okay.